As World War II engulfed Europe, Switzerland's economy was not just about financial transactions. It was built on a powerful industrial foundation that played a key role in the war's logistics and supply chains. While Swiss banks held Nazi assets, it was Swiss factories, machine shops, and power plants that kept the country running. This industry was essential not only for Switzerland's survival, but also for the war efforts of both the Axis and the Allies. The question remains, to what extent did Swiss industry contribute to the longevity of the war? And did Swiss manufacturers knowingly support the Axis war machine? Switzerland's industrial sector was one of the most advanced in Europe at the time. The country's factories specialized in precision engineering, machine tools, ball bearings, electrical components, and optics, industries that were vital for modern warfare. While Switzerland was officially neutral, its industries provided key materials to both sides, walking a fine line between economic survival and complicity in war. Swiss factories ran at near full capacity throughout the war, producing everything from watches and medical equipment to complex machinery used in aircraft, tanks, and ships. These goods were critical to maintaining the war machines of Europe. The challenge for Switzerland was how to continue its industrial operations without appearing to favor one side over the other. A difficult task, given its geographical isolation and dependence on trade routes controlled by Axis forces. One of the most significant contributions of Swiss industry during the war was the production of ball bearings and precision-engineered components. These small but essential parts were used in aircraft engines, tanks, and military vehicles. Nazi Germany relied on a steady supply of Swiss-made ball bearings, particularly as its own factories faced repeated Allied bombing campaigns. Swiss companies also produced machine tools, which were critical in manufacturing weapons and vehicles. Without these tools, the ability to produce rifles, artillery, and armored vehicles would have been significantly reduced. Swiss-made lathes, grinders, and milling machines were found in German and Italian war factories, raising concerns that Swiss neutrality was merely a guise for economic cooperation with the Axis. However, Swiss industries were not working exclusively for the Axis. The British and American governments also sought out Swiss industrial expertise, often covertly acquiring Swiss-made components. Some Swiss firms secretly supplied the Allies with tools, electrical equipment, and industrial lubricants, which were crucial for maintaining their own war production efforts. Swiss companies operated in a shadowy world of contracts, deception, and diplomacy, ensuring that their industries could profit regardless of which side won the war. While Switzerland did not directly produce large numbers of tanks, planes, or warships, it did manufacture weapons, ammunition, and firearms that were sold to both sides. Swiss arms companies, including the famous SIG, Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft, provided rifles, submachine guns, and ammunition to various customers. Swiss arms were particularly favored by Axis forces due to their reliability and precision engineering. The Swiss military itself needed to keep its own forces supplied, and much of the weapons manufacturing was justified as necessary for national defense. However, records show that large quantities of small arms and ammunition found their way into Axis-controlled territories, sometimes through third-party intermediaries. Critics argue that Switzerland's weapons production directly contributed to the prolonging of the war by allowing Axis troops to maintain a steady supply of arms. Switzerland's extensive railway system was another critical element of its industrial contribution to the war. The Swiss rail network was one of the most efficient in Europe, and it was used heavily for transporting goods across the continent. Trains carrying raw materials, machinery, and industrial components traveled through Switzerland daily, often destined for Nazi Germany or Fascist Italy. The Swiss rail system was used by both sides. While German supply trains moved through Swiss territory, so too did Allied intelligence operatives and supply shipments bound for resistance groups. The Swiss government, trying to maintain its neutrality, allowed these operations to continue with little interference. However, there is evidence that some Swiss railway officials actively collaborated with the Nazis, ensuring that critical war materials reached Germany on time. Not all Swiss industrialists and workers were willing participants in supporting the Axis. There were cases of sabotage within Swiss factories, where workers deliberately manufactured faulty parts, slowed production, or leaked intelligence to the Allies. These small acts of resistance, though not widespread, demonstrated that not everyone in Switzerland was comfortable with the country's industrial dealings during the war. Some Swiss engineers and factory managers secretly worked with Allied intelligence, passing along information about shipments and production schedules. In some cases, Swiss factories were ordered to produce specific components for Germany, but workers would subtly alter designs or lower quality standards to reduce their effectiveness in combat situations. While these acts of defiance did little to change the overall course of the war, they highlight the internal conflicts that many Swiss citizens felt about their country's industrial role in the conflict. By 1944, as the tide of war shifted against Germany, Switzerland began reducing its industrial exports to the Axis. Facing increased pressure from the United States and Britain, Swiss companies scaled back their manufacturing agreements with Germany, focusing instead on neutral exports and production for internal use. Some factories even pivoted to manufacturing goods that would be useful in the post-war reconstruction, anticipating a future where Germany would no longer be a dominant force in Europe. Despite this shift, the damage to Switzerland's reputation had already been done. The Allies saw Switzerland's industry as having prolonged the war by keeping Germany's war machine operational for years longer than it might have otherwise survived. The fact that Swiss factories had produced vital war materials, regardless of intent, meant that Switzerland's claim to strict neutrality would forever be questioned. After the war, Swiss industrialists faced intense scrutiny for their role in the global conflict. Many companies were investigated for their wartime dealings, particularly those that had sold weapons, tools, and machinery to Nazi Germany. Some firms faced restrictions in post-war trade agreements, while others worked hard to distance themselves from their wartime actions. Swiss industrial leaders defended their decisions by arguing that they had no choice, that refusing to do business with Germany would have led to an economic crisis or even an invasion. However, historians remain divided on whether Swiss industry acted out of necessity or opportunism. What is clear is that Switzerland's factories played an undeniable role in keeping the Axis war effort supplied with critical goods, while also subtly supporting the Allies in ways that remain largely unspoken. Switzerland's industrial contributions during World War II remain one of the most ethically complex aspects of its wartime history. On one hand, Swiss factories provided essential goods that kept the country's economy afloat and maintained employment. On the other, those same factories produced weapons, ball bearings, and machinery that powered the Nazi war machine, extending the conflict and leading to untold casualties. The Swiss government has never fully acknowledged the extent to which its industrial sector aided the Axis, nor has it provided reparations in the same way its banking sector was forced to. The shadow of Switzerland's industrial dealings lingers, raising ongoing questions about the responsibilities of neutral nations in times of war. In the next episode, we explore another deeply controversial issue: Switzerland's policies on Jewish refugees. How did a neutral country handle the humanitarian crisis unfolding at its borders? And why did Swiss leaders make decisions that continue to be debated to this day?